Welcome to Workwoman. I can hardly wait to get into this conversation with you. Guys, we have the one, the only Danelle with us today. Look at her background. Can we just talk about this? I know it's a podcast, but you guys have to go watch the YouTube version of this because Danelle, it doesn't even look real. It looks like it's those fake, like green screen backgrounds.
Right? I need to go sit on the couch. It's hilarious. It's everybody kind of is like, is that real? I'm like, this is my entryway and I made it my office.
It is amazing. Like, I want to hang out with you in that space. It's
You
just
come hang out
welcoming.
anytime.
Can I come hang out? Speaking of which, you just told me that Colorado has opened up some of the post quarantine services. Does that mean that hanging out in your living room is open for business?
Is open for business. Yeah, it's very interesting. You're hearing all these things, but we just opened. So this coming Monday, I can fix the nail situation and the hair situation and perhaps a facial. I would really be looking forward to that.
Your hair situation really doesn't seem bad. Like, you're concealing this hair situation very well.
It's hidden and parted well. Yeah.
I, on the other hand, am not hiding. It's just like it's all out there. I figure, everyone knows anyway. I'll just like remember this time is when I almost went back to my roots.
That's right. We made it cool again. We brought back, out hair. We brought back like El Natural during this time. It'll be a thing.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I think we should just continue this on. It's less maintenance, it's less time. I actually wouldn't be too mad about that, but
Right? No wasted
eventually.
money. It'd be great.
Exactly, exactly. So I wanted to specifically reach out to you and talk to you because as everybody is going through a total life change, there are people who are doing amazing things in the way that they're creating content. A lot of people haven't pivoted, but you are one of those people who have absolutely pivoted, and you're talking about things that most people aren't necessarily talking about. One of those things is your ability right now to be spending time with your children. And you made this post earlier in the week talking about how appreciative you are of this time and that you don't have any memes of you pulling your hair out. All you have is grateful. Can you tell me a little bit more about that perspective?
Yeah, I think, I have a huge audience of moms who follow me. And if people hang out with me, they also love humor. So a lot of my mix of my feeds were about moms day drinking and how hard it is this is why we send them to school and it's hard to be an educator and all of these things. And although we all like to poke fun at the situation, there are so many funny memes going around. Um, what I thought about is in this time, I let my two daughters hop on Instagram. Now they're private accounts, but they're watching me and they're watching some of my close clients who are making posts. And so I just did a shout out and I said, listen, we get 3 meals a day together now for conversation. I get to learn math again, which is exciting. It's a
So
challenge,
exciting.
right? And I just kind of said, man, what if your kids look back on this time and they just hear you talking about mom's day drinking and, all of this trauma. I, for one, had a hard time having kids. And so I think my relationship with them is different. They are like the greatest blessings in my entire life. I almost couldn't have them. And so this time together, I love because my 3 kids are athletes. We are dance, soccer. We hardly see each other during the school year. And so to see them excelling in school, they wake up, they go get their computers because they have watched me work from home. So they are scheduled that way. I go, let us not blame it on day drinking. Let us be grateful that we have kids and let us really call a spade that we as moms or parents need to set a schedule to where it works for us. You
Yeah, I
know,
think that's fabulous
not
because
always
it's so easy
comfortable.
to just slip into that. Like,
Yeah.
it's because it is funny. Like, I don't want to, I love that you have a sense of humor too. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
one of those people that can't joke about something or think something's funny that really is. Some of the memes are funny. However, continuing to add to that instead of saying, hey, wait a second, let's change the perspective here and get really real about
Right.
the situation.
Right.
This also reminds me of your 10X Ladies speech. And that was the first time that I got to meet you in person. And one of the things that in that presentation really stuck out to me was the way that you're able to take the nasty things that people say about you online and flip it. But so many people are unable to even acknowledge that that's happened because of fear or insecurity or drawing attention to it, where you just call it. This is what people say about me, and this is why all of these things are not true.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the enemies have no weapons to use against us, what are they get? They'll get tired of. They'll go find somebody weaker. So for me, if I get hate and it hurts me a little bit, it probably is a little bit true, and I'll take that as feedback and I'll work to get better. But if somebody does something that's just straight up hateful, I mean, learn to laugh at it and go, man, thank you for sorting yourself. Like, get off my feed. It's
Please
awesome. Let's
leave.
work for me.
What do you do with them? Do you let them kind of stay and linger, or do you actually like kick them out, block them?
Oh, it depends. I really try to turn people around as long as it goes to me, but this is my rule. So if I have a post going and it's blowing up and I get some nasty on there, well, I'll respond to all the good people first, because it's our tendency is to lash back out at the hate or delete it immediately. And I'm like, well, they won. They took you away from all the people who were pouring into what you do. So I'll respond to all the good ones first, and then I'll go to the hate and I'll go, hey man, that's a great insight too. I guess we just see it differently, or whatever I did to turn it the wrong way, man, tell me what you love and I'll suggest you go over here. So I try to, but if it become my audience is like rabid protective over me. So if I don't shut it down pretty quickly, they'll start attacking and it'll turn into a negative feed attacking Danelle. So if it gets bad, I'll just delete it and be like, bye. But if they're kind of a hateful person and they could hurt people in my audience, I'll just block them. Be like, bye.
I like that because you
Sometimes
can't
I let
just
them
handle it
watch.
all. Sorry, say that again.
Sometimes I let them watch and stay so they can watch me win.
Exactly, because you know what's happening. You know what's going to come.
Yeah.
You can't just handle all of it the same way because some people like it's really good to have that type of engagement where people are able to share negative things about you or their feedback. And, if you just delete all of it, it doesn't help you either.
Right. There was even on the post about the mom things, like, man, all I am is grateful. I had a couple moms on there who were like, I can't even relate to you, you know? And I just responded and I go, I hear you, man. I'll tell you, it might be our kids are different ages. Mine are older now. If they were 2, 2, and 3 still, I might be day drinking. You're right. So how can I help you? Do you need any tips? I was a teacher before. I can give you all the tips in the world. How old are your kids? So
I
it's like,
love
how
that.
can I help?
Yeah. I got a message. I don't get that very often, but I got a message a couple days ago about a story that I had posted saying essentially that these are the 5 things that you should take regardless of what's happening specifically in your life just due to a catastrophe or a pandemic like this is what you should do. And part of the advice was you should have a backup plan and act as if you need to be doing that right now, like act as if that thing has happened. And this woman, messaged me this very long thing that says, I don't have the luxury of acting as if the worst case scenario has happened. Therefore, like remember other people have different lives than you and aren't as privileged. And one thing that somebody taught me recently was instead of just like messaging, to send a voice message when somebody is hateful like that, because it totally diffuses the anger and the words that just get come across as reading instead of actually hearing what your intent is. And I loved that. And she responded and it was great.
Yeah, I've built my entire business on voice messenger. Everything.
So tell
People,
me more about this. Like you also mentioned earlier, so for people who don't know, and you said you have this very fierce community of people who support you, which I've seen in full force. Walk people through how you built that and what it takes for people to actually create a community around them these days.
right. I think, the cool thing is I started, it actually started horribly. My first video online was a blooper reel that somebody else interviewed me, and I was so nervous to be on camera, like so nervous. I was shaking, my hands were shaking, my words were shaking, when your voice like shakes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and it was so bad. It was about 5 years ago, and she was recording this, and she asked me what I did for a living, and I was so nervous I forgot. Like I was like, I don't know, I don't know what I do. Can we please start over? And she was like, oh no, and I was like, please don't use this. And she's like, oh, I won't, and she did, and I messed up for like 20 minutes, and she's a good friend of mine. I forgave her. It's okay. We worked it out, but
Oh, good.
she posted it online. I saw it, was mortified, and I called her and I said, please, it's very de-edifying to me. will you take it down? And she was like, Danelle, you're just afraid. Your story matters. What you can teach people will help them. If you want it to go away, bury it. Do more video. I was
Oh.
like, I hate you. I love you. I hate you. Now I love her because it built my entire business. So I just started going live one time a week, and I just started. What happened was, is I built this business and I was sharing a lot of things online, and people were asking me questions, and my inbox got so full. There was no way I could answer them. And if you don't answer people, they start getting hateful or not trusting you or thinking they don't matter. And so I started just going, hey, instead of sending me messages, just post on my timeline, let me know your questions, and I'll answer them once a week. So I did that to kind of help my workload. And it turned into Friday Night Live every single Friday for like 4 years, and just answering entrepreneurs' questions, because I was them once. I was completely broke and I knew nothing about building a business, and I wanted it really bad and I was struggling. So that's kind of how it built, and me constantly responding by voice or video in Messenger, answering their questions, popping up, calling their name out online and just saying thank you. Just making friends like I did in kindergarten online. Like, honestly, I feel like it's, some people make it really difficult. And if you just take the time and you build it like, this is where I am going to land, I am going to be online and I'm going to be a force, and you are consistent and you are kind and you are good, right? You got to get good if you want to get paid, then you'll get paid. And
For
so
sure.
I turned it from like a Q&A into a full-blown online business.
I like that. Consistent, kind, and good. So,
Yeah.
with those initial people, did you feel any sense of, I mean, you were nervous for that very first interview. Did those nerves how did you get over the continuation of the nerves when you were talking to people who were asking you questions?
Yeah, I think what was good, maybe the Q&A I used to help my insecurity, because if I was answering questions, it was no longer about me. So I was trying to help them get a result, and I stopped worrying about it. Like, now as I look back, I'm like, oh look, Danelle before eyelashes and before makeup and before like brushes. Like, I hate it when they come up in the feed and the memories and people click like on it, and I'm like, I legitimately hate you right now.
I just wanted it to be buried. I kept creating more content so no one would ever see that.
Yes. Yeah. So it really, that was the turn for me. And I don't know if I did that on purpose or it just kind of accidentally happened. But when I made it about other people, I was okay with it. Because I think that was part of, I was raised in that environment where you should care what people think. And it was all about how we looked on the outside of things. And so, from that first example, I was like, I don't really know what I'm talking about. And I had to like build bravery that I was actually helping people. So as I started to get clients and I helped them on the side, I start getting stronger that I could actually help people online. So I think it was probably both of those things together. Consistency, showing up, doing it for other people, and also then getting results on foot that I could bring strength online.
And do you get the strong community because people have results with you and therefore they want to share them? Like, how do you get them to just share and advocate? I mean, something what you've created and what people I think should really try to grasp without, if they haven't seen your stuff before, is just like how much of an advocate you've really created in people that have worked with you and followed you. And I think that there's a huge nuance. A lot of people can impact people's lives, but they aren't able to make that same next huge step, which is get them to be the advocates and voice boxes for their businesses.
For you, yeah. It's all based around results, right? Um, if you can change somebody's life, they talk about it, right? So I think one of the things that really helped is there were all these big speakers at the time when I was kind of coming up that were talking about how great they were. Um, I never talked about me. I talked about my clients. I talked about their stories. I talked about their results. I didn't need to go up and say how much money I made. It didn't really matter because people get on stage and be like, I made $500 million. And I was like, I made $1 million last year. I'm so excited. And I was relatable as a mom, as somebody who was, and I think I probably dumbed down my genius for quite a while. but I made it completely about the success stories of people I did. And I also made it about a community, because most entrepreneurs, they might quit because of opinions or fear or not having people backing them. If I can put them in a group of people that are fighting for each other, that are helping each other, that are not letting each other fall behind, that are going, do your homework, you got to do the work, come on, come with me. It puts them in this positive environment that is like, that is what's been missing. And it's amazing because it'll fix marriages, because the marriage doesn't have to support that anymore. They're getting fed over here. They're winning, and so they're not doubting anymore. So if you can create a community that is winning together, that is a positive support system, I'm a big advocate for it only takes one person to believe in you and run by your side. Like it takes one teammate, like with what you guys do. It's why I love what you do so much. Like if I would have just had you breathing next to me and going, come on, Danelle, come on, Danelle. So when I did that, I literally would get them all on live. I also, instead of doing pre-recorded trainings, I did all live trainings. So all live, on camera, on Zoom, with people there who could ask me questions. I made myself approachable. I wasn't like, hey, it's pre-recorded and you can watch it whenever you want. It was, I was willing to be in the trenches, help them go through to the results, ask the questions. So when they're all together, as soon as I finished training that night, all I had to say is, listen, I want you to take one thing you learned that you know will help you, take a picture of the group, tag me in it, share it out, and let that energy go to somebody else. And so they were all sharing me all over the place, but they weren't just sharing that I was awesome, they were sharing content. So if I couldn't get my content to the masses, they got my content to the masses, but it also showed their entire family, friends, audience that they were on the move and they were never going back to okay.
Yeah. And that's a big step for most people. That's the biggest step, is getting out of the existing environment that makes them feel stuck or like they can't, and getting around people who will allow them to think of themselves as being different, being whatever it is that they want to be. So you create that environment and you're also live. I am somebody who really struggled with what you're talking about. Where you were at 5 years ago, I so relate to, of just not being able to articulate the thoughts. Like I knew I was smart up here, but the ability to move from here to here in communication with people, especially on a camera or in front of a group, forget about it. Hated it. What did you do to get better?
Yeah, I'm a little crazy. I wrote scripts. I practiced. I drilled like it was a performance. I like practiced and practiced and practiced. I'm crazy, crazy. And I was probably perfectionitis. And then what I realized is people like, so I did that for a while. It was very performed. It was very like practice, like here's my 4 points. This is what I'm going to do. I was prepared. I never was winging it ever. Right. Because I have a tendency to say whatever I'm thinking. And so like, I really have to like guard that sometimes, because I'll offend people just by using humor. And I was like, I was just joking. And so then I had hate and it shut me down a little bit. So I do this. So if I was scripted a little bit more, I could feel more competent in delivering. My competence built confidence. What has happened since is people love me off the cuff. It's inappropriate sometimes. It's funny sometimes. It's heartfelt always. And I got better if I could just share from my heart. And so then my confidence became competent. So they kind of switched places. I always tell people it goes two ways. You either have confidence and you work on that and you'll get better, or you get better and it'll give you confidence.
Yeah. And in your early starting out phases, over preparing is like the security blanket. And then you're able to just kind of let go of the blanket and be confident that this is as smart as whatever is coming out here, and be okay with sounding a little stupid every once in a while. I still think like sometimes I hear myself, I'm like, oh, that was a really great point. And then I hear another thing, I'm like, oh, I really kind of fucked that one up. Like it really depends. You never know, but it's the confidence. I don't care that one piece happened, because 95% of it was exactly what I believe and it's what I know, and therefore the audience I'm certain got what they needed to get out of it, because I gave everything that I had to it.
Yeah, I literally did a podcast right before this, and my cousin's here cooking for us because I don't
Ooh,
cook and I can't have
amazing.
a chef here.
Can I
So
hire your cousin? Can your cousin come
yeah,
here next?
she's busy right now, but maybe later. But so she's here, and I looked over and I was like, well, nailed about 85% of that. Like sometimes it's good. Sometimes people will write me after Friday Night Live, and they're like, that was amazing, and I'm like, which part exactly? Because I feel like I botched the deal.
But then you rewatch it and it's always better. This has been my experience. Maybe I should like double check this with other people. It's always better when I rewatch it than I think it is, but it is painstaking, like absolutely horrific just getting to my computer and hitting play. Like I dread it. I will make up any excuse not to do it, but rewatching like it's there are moments, but the majority of it is good.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Rewatching it, it's always better. You asking me this makes me think back. I did drills, Natalie. I was
Walk
doing
me through a drill. Can we do a drill right now?
yeah, yeah. So because my hands shake when I get nervous, and so I was like reading about what to do. So I would be back there behind the stage. I'd be back behind the computer before I go. It takes me about 10 minutes, and I'd be like doing this and getting all the blood pumping in my hands and grabbing those things. Because if there's a ton of blood in there, so they'd be down by my sides, and I'm like going like this. I'm working my hands. So then afterwards, you can't tell if they're shaking or not. And I can feel it. I would do jumping jacks or push ups before I do a live video because if you're panting and your adrenaline's going, it'll keep you calm while you're sending a video. I would stutter.
What?
So I would drink hot tea to like make my tongue tired. No joke. I like studied everything you could possibly do because I was a nightmare.
I've never heard of half of these things. I wish I would have.
I don't know if they're fake or real, but that's what I Googled.
And it's what helped.
And I don't know if it was just mentally, but I felt like if I was doing everything I could to
Yep.
do it, then at least I'm moving forward. I'm not just here not mattering, you know?
Yeah. And I love that you found a solution. Like you're like, okay, I realize that I'm stuttering. So what can I do with my tongue to make it stutter less? Or my hands are shaking. Therefore, like what physically can I actually do and look up to help that? A lot of people like don't make that connection naturally. I wouldn't think about that if I was stutter like I have had stutter issues. I used to go to speech therapy for my R's. I sucked my fingers until I was 13. It was a whole thing. But I never thought about like what I could do to specifically my tongue to help
Right.
it
I think,
sound better.
isn't that funny? I think you know what's funny? My cousin and I were actually talking about this. We were the youngest of all the grandkids and all the kids in our family. And I think like by the time it got to us, nobody really cared where we were or what we were doing. So we'd be like out riding horses all day. We'd only come in for food. We drove the pickups at like 13, like out on the farm. And I'm like, I think we just became resourceful at birth. Like nobody really cared where we were or what we were doing. So I was always just like, I don't know, we can figure it out. Let's get from here to here. Let's use this board and this thing. And there was, you know, as I got older, my mom worked the entire time. So like she was not home. So we always fended for ourselves,
Yeah.
you
No,
know? I
it
think
makes
it's,
sense.
yeah,
You grew up in that environment, therefore you just continue to handle life in that way.
yeah, yeah.
Those people who were handed everything, we hated them when we were younger, and now aren't we thankful that we had to actually be resourceful about something
So grateful because now they call for help and we can help.
and we can help. So I love
I
you
mean, it's great. You can have a lot and be great too, but
for
I
sure.
am so grateful that I came from nothing, that I mean, everything is good, that I got divorced, that I got cancer, that everything prepared me to win. Everything. And I mean, I think that's the grateful thing too. Like I'm looking at people look at this pandemic and just stop their entire life and think it's an adult spring break. Like, I'm like, it is not. And I mean, this is when, like, if you could just take chaos and make it creative, like, this is your opportunity to win right now. You run during this time, you will create anything you want a month from now, 6 weeks from now, a year from now, whenever it is that things are back to normal. This was your opportunity.
Mm,
right? Those people who wish they
yes.
would have called me before the pandemic. I knew I should have gotten online. I knew I should have done that with you. I should have paid you in February, you know? I'm like, well, that's not going to help you. So what can you do now? Right? Like, you just
Right.
immediately, you got to change their perspective. They're just looking for a reason to complain. I am looking for the why in everything. Why this? Why now? Oh my gosh, what opportunity.
What are opportunities that you're seeing right now?
Yeah, I think there are opportunities in real estate right now. We were talking about this. Elena literally texted me. She was like, "Don't you dare do that! Move over here and do this," you know. And I'm like, "Wait, wait, wait." So there are people who need to get out of situations that, if there are people with money, we can help, and we can also move into a position of, great equity in things. I think there is any opportunity you ever wanted online is right now, whether it be a product sale, a coaching business, a direct sales business, a training company, a brick and mortar that would like to have another stream of income and get it online. There is every opportunity in the world because the whole world's online. The advantage is ours.
Right. Everything is like you can't not be online at this point.
Can't not.
Restaurants, service vehicles, everything.
Yes, yeah. So we've got, I mean, I work with an automotive dealer. They have 15 dealerships. We're training all their employees. I've been training them on social media for the past 6 months, and they were like, we can't even believe how good this timing was. So they're crushing it. I
Amazing.
mean, they're doing amazing because of what they've been prepping for, how they're working together as a team. They are used to being on Zoom calls together. I mean, they're just dialing it in. Yeah.
And if you choose to look at it in that way, there's still so much time. I mean, for us in Washington right now, they're saying it's going to be another at least 2 weeks, and then it's not going to be a flip of a switch. It's going to be like turn of a dial thing. I mean, I get what that means, but it's kind of a funny analogy. So we're turning the dial. We don't know what that really looks like, but no matter what, everybody still has 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks of still being able to use this time and not dread it, but like pick up the one thing that you've been wanting to learn, look at the course, read the book, write the book, like whatever it is. There's so much time to be used right now.
Okay, so what you talked about at 10X Ladies, you were talking and I was in the back like, yes, yes, are you listening? This is exactly how I build business. And I think people need to tap in what you talked about right now. People have to understand their mission, their vision, and their values.
Hmm.
Okay? If you know who you are and what you're fighting for, those values that make you to the core great, well, you know how to operate right now. If you understand what you are here for as a human, you can take that against any challenge that comes your way. Like, I've come from nothing and built some. I've won and I've lost. I've done great. I've done stupid things. There's lots of winning and losing, but everything that holds true, mission, vision, values. If you woke up and were like, this is what my purpose is, this is where I'm headed, and this is, what I stand for, you're not going to go wrong in any decision. And any way works. We all teach a little bit different stuff, but a lot of the same. Everything works if you
Yes.
work, right?
Right.
My boxing instructor, he always says, anything works, nothing doesn't.
Ooh, I like that.
It's so good. I'm like, yes, sir. I am up. I am squatting. I hate you. Thank you. Good morning.
Speaking of your boxing instructor, your post, I think it was today, conquer what conquers you. Oh, when you wrote that, conquer what conquers you. So tell the audience kind of what you're going through and what you're conquering right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I have had this battle with my health for the last probably 4 years. And it's amazing because I believe you can have it all, but it's what we focus on, right? No focus, no finish. So I have focused on business. I have focused on my kids. And I kept saying this sentence over and over. Well, I used to be a triathlete. I used to be a gymnast. I used to be all these things. And I started to notice the pattern that I stop other people saying. And I'm like, well, why don't I just fix it? So I'd like dabble, right? I'd like work out for a month and I'd be like, woohoo, I feel good. I want a cheeseburger, right? Like, you just kind of do these things. And, I went from athlete to cancer survivor. You'd think I would have learned my lesson to take care of my health, but I didn't. I just kept crushing in business and working tons of hours and not sleeping and doing all those things. So I finally had this conversation with Joe, who is my boxing instructor, and he was like, we got to make it painful, Danelle, like you do everything else. You were in pain financially, so you built a business. You were in pain with your health, so you fixed it, right? You needed to provide for your kids. You had 3 of them, so you fixed it. He goes, great. Well, you got to pay. And I was like, oh, I got to invest in myself. So I invested to have somebody who would come to my door, pull me out of bed if needed, kick my rear, and I'd be like, oh, I love it. I forgot. I love to work out, you know? But I was unwilling to do it. He said this morning, I think I put it in my post, he goes, because I was doing bear crawls, which are like death. I could
Ugh.
swear more in one day doing those things. I was like falling on my face on the concrete and I was so frustrated. And he's like, why are you frustrated, boss? And I was like, oh, I should be able to do this. Like, this is ridiculous. How many times we're going to do this? I keep falling down. And he's like, how good are you at selling? And I'm like, so good. He goes, how often do you sell? And I go, every day. And he goes, great, bear crawl, again, go. And I was like, got it. Every day.
Understood.
Every
Loud
day.
and clear.
Touche.
So
Right?
is your plan working out every day? And is this something new with quarantine? Like, how does this tie into what's happening with COVID and being
Great question.
self-isolated?
Yeah. So I've been battling kind of to lose weight and get back into shape where I feel great, right? It's not I've done everything they tell. I've done shakes, I've done things, and it's really I think all things that we battle with are mental, right? And I think I'd held on to a lot of baggage that I just worked through. And I'm used to traveling. So every other week when my kids go see their dad, I travel the world. I build businesses all over the globe. And I can't right now. It's very frustrating. I miss beaches. And I was like, man, this is the blessing that's giving me time. Because Joe would try to give me workouts while I was traveling, and I just wouldn't do them because I'd work 20 hours and I'd have 4 hours of sleep before I had to work again. And I'm like, I don't want to do squats right now. I'm dying. I won't be able to train if I have no sleep tomorrow. So I think as COVID came up, I used it as a blessing to say, well, I can't be on airplanes. There's absolutely no reason why I can't have the greatest start to my health journey that's going to be 2020 in a time when I'm home, and I'll take it with me on the road when I can hit the road. So I think it was just an excuse of my busy schedule that kept me from making it a priority. And as I've been working through mentally in the quiet space of my home, no bustle, no hustle. I mean, I'm still grinding a ton.
I'm sure there's lots of hustle.
Yeah, I'm doing more than I ever have because I believe that's what I should be doing right now. It just looks different, and I have more quiet time at home, even without my kids. And, where I'd be spending it on airplanes. So I think it made me think through the things that I was unwilling to work on. As I worked on those in my mind and my heart and things from the past, I was like, okay, time to get healthy again. Time to take care of all of me, you know? Yeah, so it's mental, but it's commitment and it's time.
One of the things, and I will continue to reiterate this over and over, that I just love about you is in this situation, you could choose to do a million different things and throw your focus and still get 4 hours of sleep working, which I'm sure you are working like crazy, but you actually you walk the talk. Like you're not just somebody who gets up on stage. And I heard you on stage. I've heard you and watched you. Well, I haven't watched you personally experience, but I've heard you just experience all of this just incredible trauma. And it's so easy to put Instagram stories, or I see people who talk about those things, but then when they have all of this ample time, all of a sudden it's the memes of, mom being stressed out instead of saying, okay, now this is time for me to look inward. And it's just, you are so refreshing. I felt refreshed as soon as I met you, as soon as I saw your bubbly face in that crowd. And then it was such an honor to be able to actually be in the audience and listen to your story, watch these people come around and support you. For the women that are listening to this Friday Night Live, can you talk a little bit more about what you do on Friday nights and how they can join in on all of the fun?
Absolutely. You are, can I just say, you are a breath of fresh air in business as well. Like seeing someone who is beautiful and strong and wise beyond your year. Like I didn't know who you were beforehand, right? And I saw your picture and everything, and I was a little intimidating, just so you know.
Oh
And
gosh.
I was, once I met you, I was like, she is the real deal. And you are one of those reasons that I show up every Friday night. It was what you talked about, and it was a commitment to me that I never would let success go to my head, that I would always be the servant of all servants, and that I would always give, and I would always train. And so Friday nights at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, um, you know, I've had a couple of instances with drinking and it bothering my success. And so I made it a commitment 5 years ago to do Friday Night Live. And instead of going out and hanging with all my friends, that I would train and I would serve and I would give. I've had many times where it's like, okay, I've made it through that. Let's move it. Let's do it on Sunday so you can have a weekend. Like maybe you want to go on a date, you know, like you, like all those things were tempting. But it brings me back to my mission, my vision, my values. And Friday night, I train for an hour at 8 p.m. every Friday. If it's a topic, if it's, I've received questions 10 times over, I'll answer that question. I'll bring people on who I love and trust. I would love to have you on there to share with my audience. And so, you know, that's where I go to serve and just give and give and give. And I don't really care how much goodness I like give. People are like, you give too much on Fridays. I'm like, is that a thing really?
No, this is
No.
not a thing. That is somebody who's never given anything.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing. So, you know, I came from a time where I couldn't afford anything except free training, and free training saved my life. So I'm going to always give some of that, and I'll always give some where you have to give it your all and invest in that too. But that's kind of where it started from. It's who I am, and it keeps me accountable.
I absolutely think that that is so core to the person that I know you are, and it's the free stuff. People need it. Like if you're not serving your audience in that way, you're doing yourself and your own mission and vision and values a disservice. You live and breathe everything that you talk about. I so appreciate you taking the time to come on this podcast. Thank you very much. You guys can find Danelle on her website, Danelle Delgado. Also, her name is not Danielle. Her name is Danelle, not Danielle, Danelle Delgado. And then also, you absolutely should check out her Friday nights on Facebook. She does them live every single Friday night, as she just said, at 8 o'clock Mountain Time.